Yeah, I make games, and I'm your host, Miziziziz, with co-hosts Breogan Hackett and Adam Pype. And this week we're joined by Games Plus James. So, Games Plus James, what do you do?
Yeah, I make games.
This episode was sponsored by Tony over on Twitter. Be sure to give them a follow. And if you'd like to sponsor an episode, you can message me on Twitter. All right, so tell us more about what you do, I guess, your life, work, and stuff.
Uh, I I suppose I make tutorials mostly on YouTube and make games too, and try to teach people how to make games. I don't know how to. I just kind of stumble along and see what happens.
And you're predominantly Unity, right?
Yeah, pretty much all Unity.
Okay, so let's start with questions then. Adam,
Yeah. So my question is, so I've been thinking about like weird game jams lately. Like, what is your idea for a really weird, like unconventional game jam? If you could do one, it doesn't have to be practical, but what's like your weird game jam idea, I guess?
Well, I always have this idea rattling around in my head of like, instead of everyone making their own separate games, having everyone work on one game. So have something like everybody's going to make a 3D platformer, and then everyone makes their own level in the game, or maybe a small team works on each level. So then you would design like the basic things like the player movement and stuff like that, and like the items you collect in the game and things, and how the levels progress. But then everyone has that core element, and then everyone comes up with their own unique mechanics for each level. Like maybe you have like a level with lots of slides or whatever. I don't know.
so more like kind of a mod jam, I guess, where you mod a game that already exists.
Yeah, kind of. That would make sense, I suppose.
So I actually saw a YouTube video like this recently. I can't remember who made it, but it was
Oh, cool.
a game dev like passed around. I think it was a Unity project between people under a Discord server, and there was like 20 people worked towards finishing the game. And it was really interesting to see how many times they redid the same elements.
That's really cool. That kind of reminds me, I did this once with friends where we, like, someone starts a Unity project and then they get like 10 minutes to do something, and then they pass it on to the next person without saying anything. Um, and then everyone gets like 10 minutes, and it was really like hectic because you spent like the first 5 minutes of your 10 minutes trying to figure out like what the game was about before you added anything. That was pretty fun, to be honest.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw a video about. I can't find it on YouTube. Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah, I'm looking through my YouTube history right now to see if I can find it by any chance. But it was I
mm,
think it was like a week or so ago, so I don't know if I'll find it.
yeah, but the idea reminds me. I think I saw this video once, like Riot Games do like really big game, like in-company game jams every year. I think it's called the Thunderdome, but I'm not sure. Um, and I remember like once they had just like one really big team. I think it was like 50 people or something, working together to make a game, and it was like also like 2 days or something to do it. And they figured it out. So yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of I think it's Double Fine does like I don't know if it's every year, but they have like an in company game jam period
Yeah,
where
they
I think
do. They
it's
do.
two
Oh yeah.
weeks, and they split up into like or they I think they I think it might just be like their junior developers or something
Mm.
split up into three teams and make three different games as far as I remember.
Yeah, I saw that, and they even make it into like a movie kind of, don't they?
Hmm.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, they do like a
Where
Yeah.
documentary on it.
Mm.
where do I find this? Also, that one video is called "20 Game Developers Made This Game." It's by Ben Bonk.
Oh right, yeah, I
That was
think I
it.
saw that
Yes.
in my recommended. Yeah.
I think
I think
Amnesia Fortnite was the Double Fine thing.
yeah, I was about to say that.
Amnesia Fortnite.
Yeah, little known fact, that's where the game Amnesia by Frictional Games came from.
Wait.
Definitely.
And Fortnite.
That's great.
Okay.
Um, yeah, my answer to my own question is I had this idea lately to do like a plein air game jam. You know how you can do like plein air painting, where you take your thing you paint on and you go to like a field or something and like you paint the field which you're on, you know. I wanted to do like the same thing with a game jam, but I think it would be hard to do because I don't know how people would get power. But like somehow like you hike into a forest or something or like a field and then like you sit down and you like make a game about the place that like you're at. I think that would be
It's a good
really
time.
cool.
It's a good time limit because you only have as long as your battery lasts on your laptop.
Yeah, also.
Yeah, I think I'd have an hour to work in Unity on my laptop. Setting my screen brightness fully down and squinting.
Yeah, true. And I don't know, that really excites me. I want to try it. Maybe with like a really insane battery or something you can do it. But,
yeah, it would definitely be very cool. Maybe like one way you could do it is you could do it as like a local game jam, quote unquote, where maybe you go to like a campsite or something and do it. And use the power supplies from there or whatever.
Yeah, that could work.
Are
but
you?
I also like the idea of you kind of going on like this big hike and then you're like completely secluded and you're just making a game in a forest somewhere.
Yeah, I think the further you get from society, the harder it is to make games. Surprisingly enough.
It's like, did you ever hear of the train jam that happens
Yeah,
before GDC? I think.
I'm gonna do that at some point.
Yeah, I tried to get a ticket to it a few years back, but didn't manage.
Sounds really
Well,
fun.
I think I tried to get in on a scholarship opportunity for it, but didn't work out, obviously.
Yeah, it's like $200 for a ticket. It looks like.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun, but I don't know. Then you'd go from a game jam right into GDC, which I went to GDC in 2016 on a scholarship, which is why I was trying to do the train jam one again because that also had a GDC ticket, and I wanted to go back to GDC. But I went to GDC in 2016 and it was really exhausting, and so I don't know if I could like hack doing a game jam and then going into GDC. Yeah.
I didn't know you went to GDC. What was it like to go there?
It was fine. It was, I don't know. I didn't make the most of it. I think I didn't know how to get the most out of it that I would now. I definitely feel like I wish I'd gone like 2 years later because I would have known so much more about like how to make the most of it then. But obviously I couldn't like. It was also part of a learning process as well, I guess. So it's not like it's not like I went too early and I got nothing out of it. It's just I don't think it was the time at which I would have gotten the most out of it.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on if you know where the parties are at or something.
Yeah. Also, I was under 21, so no partying for me.
Oh, well.
Did you like pay for like $1,000 to go to a talk or something, or did you just go to like the indie hall?
So the scholarship I got actually, it was basically a full ticket, so I got to go to all of the talks that I wanted to.
Oh, cool.
And then I think I just had to pay a bit for my food and stuff while I was there, and I got reimbursed for my travel and hostel stay thing. That was cool anyway. Sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to like take up the attention of this.
No, it's okay. It sounds really cool. I wish I could go someday, but then again, I also don't want to support it because it's so expensive, and I don't.
Yeah,
you know, it's evil and whatever.
I'm kind of conflicted about it. The one I would suggest going to if you like want to be like super indie is go to Feral Vector in the UK, which is really like artsy atmosphere, and it's all actually that's really cool. There's like there's a lot of like outdoor nature stuff that happens there. You could probably do the plein air game jam there.
Oh my god.
What's it called? Feral Vector?
Feral Vector, yeah. FERAL.
Actually, I think I had one of my games at Feral Vector, like the expo. I think
Yeah,
like a long
they
time
show
ago.
off games there,
Yeah,
so there's a chance that they would have shown yours.
yeah, that's really
Um,
cool. I want to go to a maze someday because that also feels like the cool GDC.
yeah, Amaze also seems cool. Um, but anyway, weird jams. What's
Oh, yeah.
what's the weird jam? What's the weird jam that I would organize? Well, I don't know. I've already organized some kind of weird jams. So one of the earliest game jams I organized was, well, first I think I can't remember what the first name of it was called, but the second iteration of it, I just referred to it as the digital dumpster, which is the idea was that most game developers have all of these old projects that they're probably never going to release,
Mhm.
and that like are in some form or another playable. So the challenge was basically to make builds of these games that you want to let go of and like say goodbye to, and
Oh, that's
to
really
upload
cool.
them.
That's really good. That's like
That's cool, yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a closure therapy game jam.
Yeah, exactly. I think I should probably revisit it now that I have a bigger following and I can like I know a lot more developers who would probably be interested in it. But I think I still think that idea is really cool because it's not quite a game jam, but it is also like you do have to produce a build of a game for it, if that makes sense. And it but in theory it should only be like a couple of hours work maybe to make sure the controller mapping still works and whatnot, and then upload it or whatever. And yeah, I think there's a lot of like flexibility in game jams, but it's not really explored to the extent it could be. Like there's ones where they pushed like common restrictions to the limits, like the game jams where it's like you have infinite time, or I think there's like a 10-year one going on, a decade one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I want to join that one,
Some of
but
them
at
are
the same
sitting on game jams.
yeah.
And then there's like ones that like really limit you, but yeah, actually Vimlark's video on game jams is really good and it actually covers what I was basically saying.
Yeah.
But then I think there's like you can definitely get really weird with like how you show a theme. Like I think I've seen one or two game jams do this, but like where your game is meant to be inspired by say an image or something like that is something that could be cool. Yeah, so the theme would be like a painting, say, by an artist,
Oh,
and everyone has to make a game that like gives off the same energy or whatever.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree that like I feel like 90% of the game jams are just a game jam with a theme, and I don't know. I don't understand why so many of them are so boring. It's like because you take the time to organize a jam and then you just do the same thing again. I don't know.
Yeah, I've organized so many game jams at this point. I feel like I definitely want to like. I think I've been trying to do something slightly different each time, but lately
yeah.
I focused on like how the time constraints work because I've been trying to discourage people crunching too much and stuff. But
For sure, and I feel like the game jams for like the Hot PS1 that you organize are always really good, and they always really have like really good games and stuff. So you definitely know what you're doing.
yeah, I think that's the advantage of like a community game jam like that, where you're already coming from a shared angle, which is where people who joined a Discord server or followed the Twitter account about low poly PlayStation 1 inspired games, and we're going to do a game jam. And so you kind of get a cohesiveness that you don't get from say Ludum Dare, where it's like literally anyone can join Ludum Dare and they don't have to know about some niche style.
Yeah, and definitely like when I was starting out, I felt like Ludum Dare and stuff was really like bad for me because it was so big that like you get completely like lost into the crowd and stuff, and there's like almost no like real engagement with Ludum Dare. Like people, you have to like review, so all the reviews are kind of like they feel like a bit corporate. I don't know. It's weird, but Definitely
I
when I was
felt
when I was starting out, doing like really small game jams, like going to Itch and joining like game jams with 20 people, and like a Discord was like the best thing to do. Um,
I think especially in the periods where I was like super focused on numbers and stuff, which I don't think I am so much anymore. But back when I started out making games and I was like, I want more people to play my games, I'd go and enter Ludum Dare and I'd be really upset that no one played my game.
yeah, exactly.
And even though there was a potential like 2,000, 3,000 people who could play my game who needed to play games and rate them,
Yeah.
and then my game wouldn't get any ratings. But of course, I wasn't playing any games, so
Yeah.
what was I to expect, you know?
That's the nice thing about being famous is you don't have to play other people's games to get ratings.
So that's why you do it, Miz.
Yeah, that's why I do it. It's the best part.
Yeah, I also really like when YouTubers do like you can send in games and then they go over your games and they kind of try to give feedback and stuff.
Oh, on stream, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun to watch on a stream. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Seeing someone tear down your game in front of
And like
a bunch
they
of
run
people.
into all these bugs you never noticed, or like beat it in ways you never expected. And it's just like that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
what you're supposed to do.
It's
I
always
Having the
fun when
experience.
it's always fun when they start your game and within like 5 seconds they've broken it and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer to itch.io ratings where it's like a 5-star rating and someone like goes into every detail of what they liked about your game, and it's like no one ever is gonna see this but you, the developer. And it's like this really sweet review, and it's actually got like a technical look at it and everything. And
But I find it weird that you don't get any notifications for that stuff. Because you do get notifications for like comments and but
Yeah.
if you do like ratings, you need to know like where to look because it's kind of hidden as well.
the ratings can also be a really negative influence as well when you see like someone rated your game 0 because it didn't work with their specific model of controller or whatever, and it's like great, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have a weird jam idea, Miss?
Oh yeah. My weirdest idea was have a jam where you have to use jiggle physics in a creative way. Have you ever seen that clip of like the birds that have jiggle physics for like their?
Yeah,
Has everyone seen that? I could put it in the chat.
I think I've seen that. Yeah,
I haven't seen it, so put it in the chat. But,
I don't think so.
it could be called Jelly Jam.
Yeah, something like that. But just like you have to use it in like a in an unexpected way, not the the expected way. And it's like
yeah.
it would be I don't know, I think it would be fun, like to take a different look at it. And then completely
Yeah.
unrelated, I had a really stupid idea to have a jam hosted on June 9th or September 6th called the 69 Jam, where you have 69 hours to make a game. But yeah, those are my jam ideas.
That's really good. Yeah, I think it would be cool to do like a game jam just like focused on like a specific plugin like the jiggle physics or like a soft body game jam or something.
Yeah. Another game jam I've actually helped organize is what's called Flat Jam, which is for a concept called flat games, which my friend Laura came up with, which is games where there's like minimal interaction and the only thing you do is you basically move around in the world and the world maybe reacts to you a little bit. And we organized a game jam for that 2 years in a row, I think, and then like the third year we didn't, but this year what I was actually working on was a Unity plugin to making these flat games easier.
Yeah, I saw that plugin.
And we hosted a game jam for that, which I definitely think is outside, like, it might not be weird in a way you'd think about it, but like I feel like the concept of those flat games is outside of the normal expectations of what a game is, and I think that like makes it unusual, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite one from like the weird game jams is the Paint Jam, where you have to like make a game in Microsoft Paint, It's really good because it seems like a pretty not that limiting theme until like you realize you can't do transparency in paint. So everything has like a white square around it.
I mean, you can just write a shader that gets rid of every magenta pixel and treats it as alpha though.
Yeah, I suppose. But then, that's cheating. So
No, it's not. It's writing a shader for my game.
Oh wait, I just looked at the FAQ and it says, "Can I use blank instead of MS Paint?" And they say yes.
What?
Please try to only use tools that are present in MS Paint and don't use any fancy features. Oh, okay.
Okay.
I hate it when like Game Jam organizers give in and like, okay, we'll make it reasonable. It's like, no.
Well, it's probably because I guess you can't get Paint on Mac or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
I guess we should go to the next question.
Yeah. Next question.
So what is your favorite sequence or moment in a game that influenced you as a designer in what you do? So what I was kind of thinking with this was, I don't know if anyone played the game Iconoclasts. Came out a few years ago.
I haven't played it, but I know about it.
Yeah, so it's like a platformer Metroidvania kind of game, and this is semi-spoiler for the game itself, but there's a sequence pretty late in the game where you and one other character go to the moon, and both those characters are kind of falling in love or whatever, but you're a woman character or a female character, and there's a guy that you're up there with, and then he faces off with this big boss thing, and then he gets kind of not killed but injured, so you have to carry him back to your little spaceship to get back out. But on your way to that point, you go through all these doors, and you find that he can open the doors. And then when you're walking back out, you're carrying him, and as you walk to the door, you're carrying him, and that activates the door. But you eventually get to a door where the panel to unlock it is floating a little bit further away from the door. It's been sucked out by wind or whatever. So you have this gameplay moment where you have to make the decision that to open that door, you have to leave him lying beside it. But for you to get through, you have to leave him there. You can't go back. You can't go back and pick him up again because the door will close straight away. So you get this moment that is a purely gameplay decision that you have to leave the character behind. And there's no real repercussions on the game of that. And there's no dialogue that goes through that moment either. There's no like overwrought, like, oh, this is a hard decision you have to make. Yeah. It's just purely on you. And that have really had an effect on me. It really made me think like of the power you have as a game designer to do this to someone, like to put them through this emotion without like telling the player what's happening. It's just all in their own head.
Yeah, that's really good. I haven't actually seen that ever done like where it's
fantastic.
Moment,
it's one of my favorite
taken as a big moment.
Moments.
That's great. Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
I have to play this game now.
Yeah. I really like that idea. The only issue I have with it, of course, is that it's one of those video game choices where you're like, if you want to actually finish the game, you have no choice but to do what the developer intends you to do, which is to leave the person behind. So I don't know how well it actually plays out in the game. I guess it's going more for that moment of realization when you have to when you realize you have to leave the character behind. But it feels like it would be more impactful if there was some way around it that was like really negative to like your player's abilities or whatever, or something like that would like give you the actual choice, as opposed to like the experience of, oh, I can either choose to stay here and never finish this game and not kill this guy, or I can kill this guy and move on.
Yeah, too. I wonder if it'd be cool to make like a game where you have to like carry someone around or something, but at any time you can just abandon them, and then every single line of dialogue has like a version where you're still carrying him and one where you're not carrying him.
Oh yeah.
So there's like essentially two games, but you know. I think that would be cool.
And I'm thinking
it is interesting though.
I was thinking of Bastion kind of from that. That was a sequence I thought was really cool when I played that at the end, where it's like you have the choice of the final boss, you have the choice to either kill him or like spare his life, and if you kill him, you get like this big super weapon, and then you like fight through all like hordes of enemies. But if you save him, then you can't use any weapons. But none of the enemies attack you, and you just like you're just like carrying him slowly through like all of them to get to the end. It was kind of like, I don't know, just interesting how like you get to choose you choose which ending and then choose what kind of game experience you're getting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I think it's always crazy to think that like game designers have to, that we have to think of doing like multiple types of endings and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's what make games or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. To answer your question, by the way, I kind of want to split it in two because I think I can't really think of like a specific sequence that influenced me, but I have like a favorite sequence of a game, and I have like something that influenced me from a game. So, I think my favorite sequence in a game is definitely like the end of Portal 2, which I won't spoil for anyone who still hasn't played that game. But I think what keeps influencing me in games is whenever I see like a dialogue box in games, because they always like push it a bit further. Like there's always like this new level of polish to like the dialogue box, like the way the letters get in and stuff. And just every time I see a dialogue box in a game and it does something different, I'm like instantly, oh, I'm writing this down. I need to do this because my personal mission is to create a perfect dialogue box. I guess that is my answer.
So what I was gonna say, well, I wasn't really sure how to answer this. Like one of the things that came to mind was the first moment you get in your ship and fly off a planet in No Man's Sky, which is one of my favorite games. But that's not really impacted how I look at games or how I work on games, as much as it's like one really good moment of game feel. So something that I think, and this is a game I've played recently, but I still haven't finished, and I need to go back and finish. But something that's really a game that's really impacted how I look at video games is Kentucky Route Zero, which I've been playing on my Switch. And there's this one sequence in it set in, I think it's an art museum. It's meant to be like a modern art museum. And you're playing as this group of people walking around and looking at each of the exhibits. And not only did that, I won't spoil it, but it does some really interesting stuff with the exhibits and interactivity. But yeah, what I was going to say is that not only did that moment in that game really evoke the feeling of wandering around a modern art museum looking at pieces with someone else, which like isn't something I've done since before the pandemic, and I was playing this around Christmas time and like missing people, so it was really impactful to me, like thinking about that experience of being with another person just looking at art. But also it did some stuff that with the exhibits that really made me think about game design. And essentially, without spoiling too much, one of the exhibits is a text-based adventure game represented in a physical medium.
Okay.
And you, the player, guide the players through that physical medium, and like the text box is reading out. And you're basically playing it as a digital text-based adventure game, but you're playing as the characters playing a physical text-based adventure game in a digital format, in a digital text-based adventure game. It's all these layers, but it's a really interesting moment to like see how that was pulled off, and how like, I don't know, that gave me a lot of thoughts about what you can actually do with games, and what you can do with games that actually comment on game design.
That sounds cool.
What was the name of the game again?
It's Kentucky Route Zero. I believe it was kickstarted in like 2012 or something, and it was in development until just last year when the final version was published, and it was released in chapters.
Yeah, because I remember a game I was working on getting compared to it like 6 years ago or something.
Yeah. Yeah, all I know is it's been there since before I was making games, and it's released after I've been making games for like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. That's good old classic early access.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I guess I already mentioned a sequence. I don't know from Bastion, but like I don't know what else I could like talk. There's nothing like mechanics wise. It was more like story stuff, and I haven't done much story stuff, so it's like I don't know if I can say it influenced me because I haven't like used any of those influences. But yeah, that sequence in Bastion, and then I mean I remember Braid had this one cool moment right at the end where like you play through this whole level expecting one thing, and then it like rewinds and shows it from everyone else's perspective, and it's and that was a pretty cool twist. Too bad the rest of the game wasn't that cool in terms of like, the story. But yeah, that was pretty neat. It was just like, how could he use the mechanic in like an unexpected way, completely story focused. Yeah, that's all I got.
I guess we'll move on to the next question then.
Yeah.
So that is me. And my question is, so what's your earliest memory of thinking about game design?
For me, it's definitely like when I was little, making like fake games on like paper. Where you kind of like cut it out and pretend it's real, a video game.
Yeah.
And then you kind of draw the level, and I guess that's kind of thinking about game design, because then you do it with other people and you let other people play the game, and you're like, oh, this is easy, so then you add a trap, and oh my god, now you're a game designer.
Yeah, I definitely drew some platformer levels when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's really great. I really like that kind of. I think I saw a game once that was like made to look like those kind of when you like
Sketchy.
draw a level, yeah, like it's sketchy, and like the entire game was kind of like this notebook, big level that you play through. I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah.
James.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I hadn't really thought about it before, but it only kind of dawned on me that like when I was young, I used to design assault courses for my action figures to go through. And I don't think I ever actually made any of them. I used to design them out of like cardboard tubes and stuff like that on paper. And it only occurred to me afterwards, just thinking about it, that like they were pretty much just platformer levels that I was making the whole time. Because I'd set up all these traps, and it was like, in my head, it was like, oh, you could make it like this way. And I would have no idea how you could make such a thing at all. But like, in my like 9-year-old head, it seemed like a really good idea.
Yeah, it's really cool how it's like almost a universal thing where like a bunch of people are like making games in cardboard and paper when they're like, really young.
Yeah, I think the like most simple and earliest form that I remember interacting with was drawing mazes. When I was a kid, because I used to always draw mazes, and I would just like sit there and draw just the box where you start and the box where you end, and I'd fill up an entire A4 sheet of paper. And actually, a few years back, I made a game about it, which is funny enough, sort of like one of those flat games I was talking about earlier, and that was called Labyrinthine Passages. And the idea was that to read the story, you had to follow the maze, and like the writing was along the corridors of the maze. And so you'd follow with the like character's movement, and the camera would follow, and you'd move over to text and you'd read through it basically.
Yeah, it's like I guess if you think about it, like the earliest game design that you kind of do is when you're really young and you're playing like school playground game or something, and you make like your own house rules to make you win, you know. I guess that is also game design.
Yeah, you're basically designing like a multiplayer game, but in such a way that one person always has the advantage.
I wonder if it's like, I wonder if it would be a viable thing to do, like create them. Is that like a thing people that like seriously create like playground games, like stuff you can just play with nothing and like with multiple people.
Yeah, there's I believe there's some like tabletop stuff a bit like that, and there is what like parlor games, I guess they'd be called, which are kind of similar, but they're obviously designed to be played in a posh, fancy parlor.
Yeah, too. But I guess if there's like games that you can just play with nothing, there's just like people and a playground, like a new version of I don't know, what do you call like the game where you have to tag people? Tag.
I was also going to say that like that moment when you're playing The Floor is Lava and you decide that you can actually steal your dad's shoes and you can wear them and they'll protect you from the lava.
What about doing that? Or like this counts as not lava or whatever.
Yeah, this carpet that covers 90% of the floor is definitely not lava.
I mean, I guess banning your dad's shoes is game balancing, so.
You ever see that video of the person who's been playing The Floor is Lava for 20 years or something?
No,
He's just like going around. It was a joke, but.
Oh, okay.
But he's just like going around his campus, like walking on chairs and stuff. And
yeah, it sounds like an Onion article or like a mock documentary would be made about that.
Yeah, it was a mockumentary basically.
That's really cool, actually.
First game design. I like completely forgot about this until you all started talking about like drawing on paper, but somebody taught me this game when I was a kid. I saw some people playing it and they taught me you get a piece of paper and you like draw like I guess a circle on it with a stick, and that's like a guy with a gun basically, and then the other person gets them, and then you put your pencil on it and you like flick it in a direction and it'll like draw a line on the paper when you flick it. And so you can choose to move or shoot, and you like flick to move, and then you move your character to the end of the line that was drawn, or you can like flick to shoot, and if it hits the other person, then they die if the line hits them. And so so we played that, and then I like kind of like and ended up inventing all my own like rules and stuff. Like we'd have tanks, and like this one takes 2 hits to kill, but it kills another tank instantly. And then this one's like an infantry transport, and like has a guy with a gun in it, but it takes 3 shots to kill, and then put like cover around the map and design all these different things, and then I'd play through them with my friends, and we'd be flicking pencils at each other, and like this turn-based strategy game, but with like pencils and stuff. And like I guess there's some skill because you have to like flick the pencil in the right direction and try to get it to hit.
It's a kind of interesting, like you know how playing games is like an instinctual thing for people to do, like even when they're really young. I wonder if like kind of designing games is also almost instinctual, maybe. Like if you give like a kid absolutely nothing, they'll like figure out like a game they can play, So,
yeah.
to an extent, we are all game designers.
I also wanted to shout out quickly like the level editors for games. Like I used to play Age of Empires 2, and I used to just spend hours making maps for it. And the same with like Tony Hawk's or again mazes, which I guess I knew about on Paper 1 before, but Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, making mazes in that game, so good. Or even the roller coasters, but the mazes were more fun to me for some reason.
You really
I used to do the same in like Civilization and SimCity, like making all the maps, but then never actually playing them, just getting the enjoyment out of making them.
Yeah. It's good. We should probably move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So what mechanic from a game would you love to see be used more, or try using it yourself in game? One thing that I always find interesting is the Nemesis system from the Shadow of Mordor games, and like the only problem with that is like
you're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to. It's all patented or whatever. But I've seen people saying like there's ways to like get around that, because like the idea of having characters remember your actions, like that's not a completely unique thing, but it's such an interesting idea, and being able to apply that in so many different kinds of games could work so well. Like In
Definitely.
one thing I always think about is like fighting games and things that, like, you know, your earlier fighters would remember things you did to them and things like that. I don't know.
They can patent game design.
Big companies can anyway.
Yeah, some weird elements.
What was it? It was like Konami, I think, had a patent on loading screen mini games for like 30 years or something.
Yeah. Assholes.
At least as far as I remember, it was Konami, and if not, Konami
think you're
deserved
right,
the hate
yeah.
for it anyway.
Yeah, and by the time their patent expired, loading screens weren't really a thing anymore. So.
Yeah.
I think my answer to this question is, you know, how I've been playing a bit of like Half-Life Alyx, and I really like how everything is kind of like a physics object, but also like doors and like your hands as well, and like you can like just push your hands against something and it'll like knock it over, you know. And I wish like more games I wish there was like a game engine or something where everything is like standard like a physics object and just everything has like physicality to it, because I think it's really cool when like you can knock everything down, you know.
Yeah.
In games.
I was thinking about this recently actually because I was watching a Digital Foundry video on, I think it was Resident Evil Village, and they were talking about like how good the art looks, but how all of the objects that are physically interactable have like yellow tape on them basically, and then like there's objects of the same size and material basically that you can't break or can't knock over or whatever just because they don't have this tape on them. And I was thinking about how much it does actually add, like even as much as it like causes glitches in certain like open world RPGs, like having just a bunch of physically interactive objects available is a lot of fun. Like like cabbages in Skyrim or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Ultima Online. I remember reading about that. Apparently, every item in there could be picked up and moved around and stuff. And it led to a lot of like interesting situations in the games. Like people found out that like tables couldn't be destroyed or something, so they would like barricade off the city with tables, and people could only go out like one door, and like so they'd have the PvP clan sitting there killing everyone who doesn't pay them or something. But
it always
yeah,
makes
apparently
like,
everything in
really
the game
emergent
is
stuff.
interactable and move around. You could move it and place it, and that like added a lot of interesting elements.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like possible to make like a game engine that can, and you can only have like physics objects or something. Like even if you add a button, it's like a physical object.
So what? That would have to work on like a planetary system almost.
Yeah.
Define
I think, like-
something as a source of gravity or something.
I think that would be a cool combination with like a SDF like remarched style graphics.
Yeah, actually,
Would combine with that best, I think, because then you
yeah.
have like the SDF shapes to generate your collision as well.
I think actually the closest thing to this is like Little Big Planet 1, because in the subsequent Little Big Planet games they added like logic, so you could make things just like happen with like logic, like buttons and stuff. And but in the first one, everything was just completely reliant on the physics. So if you wanted to make something like in a sequence or like a toggle, they had to like physically make a mechanical toggle somewhere in the level to make that toggle actually work. That was really cool. So I think that's kind of like the closest thing we have to that.
Yeah, there is also what's that? There's a 2D physics engine thing. I can't remember the name of it now, but I used to play with it when I was like 10 or 11, and you could just like draw a shape and it would become a physical object, and then you could connect it with like joints and stuff. I think
I know what you're talking
all I
about.
remember is there was an ooh sound in the
Yeah, I
in
remember
the
playing something
name.
like that, yeah.
But the it's funny you mentioned the like physicality of everything, because I was actually going to say for this physics-based movement, because I've been playing Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy again lately, and I still haven't gotten over it, but the movement in that game is very deliberately entirely left, like, not entirely left, but like it integrates the physics system in such an integral way to every moment of gameplay. And the thing about that is I've seen a bunch of other Getting Over It likes, I guess, that what they will do is they'll have like, oh, you're a blob and you can stick to the wall and then you can decide what direction you're going to go from there to jump or whatever. And like that's really cool. But there's all this downtime in those styles of games where it's like you can rest here for as long as you like, and no matter what you do until you click this one button, you're going to be fine. Whereas in Bennett Foddy, if you're like balanced on a point and you start moving your hammer around, that actually physically modifies the center of gravity of the player, and it will like send you flying over the edge. So you can't even move your mouse in Bennett Foddy without impacting the physics in some way.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of thoughts on that game.
I want someone to make like a walking simulator or whatever, like a game where you can walk and you're able to like trip, like it keeps.
Isn't that Co-op by Bennett Foddy?
Yeah, true. But I guess more like an actual normal walking simulator, except if you move your feet in the wrong way, you are able to trip.
Oh, so you're. What you're talking about is Death Stranding now.
Yeah. I guess so. Oh my god. I am Kojima. It's just...
James, what were you about to say earlier?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
I forgot.
Whoops.
Oh, I think I was going to say, when we were talking about the physics-based stuff, I was going to say one of the really satisfying things I always find with physics-based like objects is when they're breakable. There's just something satisfying about like going around a room and smashing every object in a room.
Yeah. I think I've actually mentioned on this podcast before my wish to make a game that's just the pot smashing from Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I still want to make that game where you're just like dodge rolling about smashing pots. Someday.
Oh, let's see. Did you say a mechanic you want to see more, Breogan?
Yeah, I was talking about the physics-based movement.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it tied in with Adam, so I got them mixed up. I guess for me it would be, I mean, I've talked about this before, but Gorilla Tag just has such a great movement system, and I want to see that used more. I think I mentioned I'd like to do a game jam where everyone has to use that system. That reminds me.
Again, that's very like Getting Over It in a lot of ways as well. And like the physics-based element of it is because in Gorilla Tag, depending on what way you hit the ground with your like gorilla hand, it will apply different friction and like push to the ground. So you have to make sure your hands are perfectly parallel if you want to walk along quickly. And like every little change in the movement of your hand in that game, again, it impacts how your character moves. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really intuitive and just feels good, and it's surprising how like not nauseating it is.
Yeah. It's funny we were all kind of thinking about physics for this.
Yeah.
I guess we all just want really good physics engines.
Oh, we should hurry if we want to keep it under an hour, I guess. So
yeah, too.
Let's see. Oh, my question is, so you know how that movie's was making the rounds a couple weeks ago or something about the Game Heroes or something, about this kid who's like a game developer. He has to make the ultimate game to save some company or something, and it looked like total garbage cringe. Everyone hated it. So it got me thinking. I was like, okay, what kind of movie would game developers actually want to see that's like fiction, not a documentary, but like an actual fictional movie about game developers? What would it be about?
Actually, I kind of the movie already exists, kind of. But it's I forgot the name of it, but I saw this movie recently. I think it's Chinese, but I have to check. But it was really good because one of the main characters was a game designer, but that was like not like completely not the point of his character, and that's like so cool to have like because it was just
Yeah.
like a romance thing, and it's about people um, wanting to live in Hong Kong, I think, or something. It's just like a struggle, like a relationship, and it's really good. And then he is a game developer, and he does make like a game throughout the movie, but that's like completely not the point. It's just like it's like a human being, and because I feel like so many times whenever there's like a game developer in a movie, it's like that is their whole character. They make games, and it was like so refreshing to see. Um, yeah, that was really cool. And I guess I want just like more movies where, you know how you have like a bunch of movies where the main characters are writers, just because movies are written by writers.
Oh.
So they kind of project themselves into the movie, even if it's not about writing. I guess I
Yeah.
want that more for like games. Yeah.
Something that actually already exists that I think is an interesting approach on like a fictional version of a game developer that's almost relatable, I'll say, is the cartoon called I can't remember the name of it, but it's on Netflix, and it's by J.G. Quintel, who did the the regular show. My brain has gone completely
Oh.
blank today, but it's called Close Enough. Close Enough is the name of the show, and it's about a family and the father in the family. He is a game developer in his spare time, and all of the like it only comes up like once every couple of episodes, but when it does, it's dealt with pretty interestingly. And like there's this one episode that's all about this past project he never finished, and him having like a sort of a midlife crisis about this game that he never finished and he could have sold, but it bugged out at like a pitch meeting. um but yeah, I think I'd like to see a lot more just like game developer as an attribute of a regular character in a normal show, and not or movie, and not a movie specifically about a game developer, unless maybe it's a movie about a game developer's gradual realization that they don't want to be a game developer, and instead they go off to live in the wild or something.
That's also a good one. The name of the movie, by the way, that I was talking about is Us and Them. So
Is what?
it's
Us and
Chinese.
them?
Yeah, I linked it in
Oh, James, what
it's
movies
great
you
because
have?
not even the synopsis mentions game once.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'd always kind of have this idea of like a developer like being sucked into their own kind of world or whatever. Because I always like the idea. I don't. This comes from like Stephen King books I've read and stuff, and him talking about writing. The idea that like the characters you develop aren't just created by you; they're kind of out there in the like I don't know universe or whatever, and you're just kind of tapping into them. So I think there's kind of like an interesting story there of like being sucked into your game that you're working on and encountering your characters and discovering that they're completely different to how you're representing them, almost. The idea of
Yeah.
I don't know. You've created this world, but you aren't in control of it. Almost, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you're the person who made Wreck-It Ralph, and you go into the Wreck-It Ralph game,
Yeah.
and Wreck-It Ralph is just there drinking tea or whatever, and he's like, "What the fuck, dude? This is my house."
Yeah.
Also, Yahtzee Croshaw from Zero Punctuation.
Oh yeah.
His book Mog World is kind of like that, where it like turns out all the people in this MMO are like alive, and it's like created this hellscape where no one can die. They just respawn the next day, and there's like this endless number of players who want quests, and they just walk up to you and say, "Quest, give me quest." Anyway, it was like this whole like hellscape, and everyone's like, "I just want to die. I wish I could," you know. And yeah. Oh yeah,
That
and
sounds really cool.
yeah, anybody who gets like too attractive and like smart and stuff, their brains get scooped out, and like a remote control thing gets put in for the players to control them. And like because they made the game super realistic and they render every atom or something, so it's like that what happened. Anyways, that's a fun read.
What was that called?
I think it's Mog World, MOG World.
Yeah, I've always been curious about his writing, because I think I've watched most of Zero Punctuation since I was like 12 or something.
Yeah, same. I remember when his channel first started, or I saw his Fable video.
So is that your answer, Miz, or did you have
whoops. No,
another?
I was just related to that. I mean, my answer would be like, I don't know, I'd like to see like just like a fun teen movie where it's like some friends stumble across some tutorials and are like, this is cool, and then they start making a game together, and I don't know, they just go on adventures, and the movie like culminates with them winning a local game jam or something, like very like low stakes and just like casual and fun, and like yeah,
a sort of slice of life, coming of age,
yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's like, they're like, wow, if only I could like date an author, then I'd have a writer for my game. You know?
Yeah,
you know, things like that.
I think the coming of age story would be a great framing device for that, because a lot of people who make games like express some interest in it when they're a teenager, and I definitely know a good few people who like started working on games when they're a teenager. I did myself. I was like 16 or 17 when I made my first game.
Yeah, I was 18, I think.
So what's our final question then? That's James.
Yeah. So, what game mechanic do you dislike or think is overused in games in general that you'd like to get rid of?
Skill trees, probably.
Walking.
I don't know why so many games have it. But I guess I can see where they come from. It is like definitely like from development standpoint, because it's just like you strip away functionality and then you put it into a tree, and now it's like there's more content. So it's I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I always prefer when you have like, if you use a skill more and more, you build that up, and maybe like you learn how to do something else. Like the more you jump, you learn how to do a double jump or something like that.
Yeah, skill trees are also always kind of like confusing to me, because then like sometimes you get the skills too fast, and like you can't even like learn the skill until you get the new version, and it's really weird.
I think I think a lot of AAA developers are scared of high skill ceilings in like the base experience of a game. So instead of providing like your player can do all of these things they want, and you just have to be able to control them to do that, which is the challenge comes from actually learning the controls and learning how to do things. Instead, they say, okay, we'll give you the most simple thing that can get you through a few missions to start with, and then you can start learning those things. And I think it's actually a lot more fun when the full like moveset is available from the start in a lot of games, especially a lot of the types of games that are getting skill trees. Like an open world game like is so much better if you can just do everything from the start. Except for like I mean, like obviously you want to be gated from areas that are too high level for you, but like you don't want to be gated from doing actions that are too high level for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like you can still try to like do a lockpick or whatever, but you're gonna be bad at it for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of how Oblivion did level scaling, so you could always go anywhere and do anything. But it's like, I think it's funner when there's places you can't go because it's too high level or something.
Yeah, no, that's not what I was trying to say. I mean, like you need to be gated from certain areas. I think that's probably the strongest thing that for me, Fallout New Vegas had over Fallout 3 was that like areas actually had really tough enemies that you couldn't just go to in the early game. But my actual answer to this question, though, maybe it's a little bit contrarian, but I think games could do away with shooting for a decade. Just like no games that feature guns or shooting for just 1 decade, please. Or even a year, even just a year where no gun games release.
I agree with gun, but I don't think you can get rid of shooting. It's too basic, I think. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can still have throwing. You can still have you can still have constructing elaborate mechanisms to propel projectiles even. But
I just think like aiming and clicking is like too.
But you can still aim and click in games that don't feature shooting.
Yeah, true. I suppose.
Like you can have grappling games. They're not shooting games, you know.
That's true.
I do want to.
Then we'll have like a new wave of violent grappling games.
Listen, I just think video games as a medium would benefit from taking a break from that worn out guns and shooting mechanic that every single big game seems to have. I don't know.
Yeah, I do want to challenge myself to break away from doing violent games for a while.
And that doesn't even mean they don't have to be violent. You can have plenty of violent non-shooting games, you know?
Honestly, I want to do the opposite. I haven't actually made a violent game yet.
Yeah,
I should.
I actually haven't really either, and I kind of really want to make I don't want to make a shooter, but I want to make an open world game that's like an open world survival horror game that features shooting.
What I was thinking of with this as well is the idea of encumbrance in games and like being limited in the amount of things you can carry in general, because I always think it's just taking away some of the fun out of the game, just especially in games like Skyrim and things where if you have too much stuff you walk slow.
Yeah.
And it's just not fun because you're already carrying this magic bag that all this stuff is disappearing into. Why does it have a size limit on it, you know?
I can, I understand why encumbrance exists in certain games, and I can actually get behind, the design viewpoint of that, but I also think a lot of games that don't need it do have encumbrance systems.
Yeah, there's definitely good uses of it. I think the thing in Resident Evil where you have this kind of Tetris menu that you have to fit things in, that's a very interesting design implementation of it.
Yeah,
But that's much better than just having, hey, here's a number of weight that you can carry, magically fit all these things in.
Well, I think the idea with that, and it's something that I think it's a noble idea to say that every single item you can pick up in this game has a weight and you can carry a maximum weight. But the thing is, by the nature of gameplay, you're going to have to make that weight limit way higher than it would be in real life.
Yeah.
Unless you're maybe if you're making a survival horror game, you can get away with a weight limit in a way that works.
Yeah.
But in Skyrim, say, you can carry 10 times what your average Nordic warrior would have been able to carry, you know?
I think it's always the most common mod as well in games. It's just the first mod is always remove the weight limit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think especially in games where the weight limit is already an ant's weight limit where it can carry 100 times its body weight.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't really make sense to have a really high weight limit if you're gonna have a weight limit, I think.
Yeah. Too.
So for me, I'd say it's probably just traveling around gets so boring. Every game where it's here's your quest, now go here, and it's now I get to walk for 10 minutes to get to the next fun part. And it's just let me go to the fun part. Why do I have to spend all this time walking?
Yeah. I think that instead of getting rid of traveling, I would get rid of quest markers. If you're gonna have traveling, I really hate in an open world game where you know exactly where you're going and you walk in a straight line for 10 minutes. But I really love in an open world game when you don't quite know where you're going, and you kind of have to follow the road, and you have to like you have to kind of actually think about how to work out where you're going, and it actually makes an interesting challenge of the traversal.
If the journey is interesting, then it's okay. But when you're just like you say, just going in a straight line, it's just really boring. I think GTA 5 was really bad at that, and probably previous GTA games as well, of like, you'd have your mission start on one side of the map and then the end at the other side of the map. So you have to drive to where the start is. There's nothing interesting happening on the way. Then you get your mission, then you drive all the way to the other side. Again, nothing happening of interest on the way, but there's nothing you can do but drive.
Yeah.
I guess more of the challenge is just making the actual travel fun and enjoyable.
That's why every game needs a gorilla tag movement. Will fix that right up for you.
God. So the ultimate game is gorilla tag movement. Everything is physics and no encumbrance or something.
And no shooting. Don't forget that one.
And no shooting. Yeah. Take notes. All right. I think we have 40 questions.
Yeah, we got everything. Nice. And it was just a little over an hour. Yeah, so let's see. Anything you want to promote, James?
Well, my game Scoot Kaboom and the Tomb of Doom is probably out by the time this drops, I'd say. So,
yeah, it should definitely be out, I think.
Yeah. Go check that out on Steam and play it and buy it, maybe.
Yeah, it's actually I wanted to mention that's why I asked my question, because Scoot Kaboom really reminded me of drawing like mazes or drawing platformer levels on paper. Yeah. Because the initial pitch you had for it was that like you could see the whole map in one like screen.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was definitely like part of what I was thinking when I was making it as well. Was I had the exact same thing of making those kind of those little maps, and it was when I started doing it, I was like, oh, this would be fun if it was like those kind of maps I made when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I noticed, was how dense the mazes were. Just the amount.
Yeah, it was a fun like challenge trying to pack it all into that given area, and then trying to make this twisting maze that you platform all the way around. Like, it was fun.
I think it's a game I'm really excited to like see at AGDQ or something.
Yeah, that would be fun, definitely.
Just speedruns in general of that game are going to be cool.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. That was a fun one.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. Thanks for having me.